The Sinaloa Cartel turns towns into battlegrounds. One of Mexico's oldest and most violent criminal organizations, its criminal empire extends from Culiacán to Mexico City, New York, Madrid, Dubai, Hong Kong, and Sydney, reaching 47 countries. As the main smuggler of fentanyl into the U.S., the cartel fuels the deadliest opioid epidemic in history, taking hundreds of thousands of lives every year. Their methods are varied. Human mules with small packages, massive shipments in vehicles, and tractor trailers. Fear, threats, and violence are their tools of power. They eliminate local police, journalists, and rival group members. Innocent civilians and suspected disloyal cartel members are also victims of their brutality. The cartel is a corruption powerhouse, influencing police, military, politicians, and even presidents. Beyond drugs, it traffics humans and arms, partnering with China-based suppliers of precursor chemicals. The cartel has perfected the art of money laundering. But what about its structure? Does it operate like a multinational corporation? Who's its CEO? Ismael El Mayo Zambada? Ivan Archivaldo Guzman? Will its factions continue battling each other for dominance? In this episode of Illicit Investigations, we reveal the new structure of the Sinaloa Cartel, detailing the major factions that constitute this criminal organization, according to the DEA's latest findings. We'll explore the secrets of their illegal operations and how they battle each other for territories and power. Don't miss any detail of this intriguing story. The Sinaloa Cartel lacks a single leader, but one faction has become more powerful than the others, according to the DEA's latest drug report. The cartel comprises 4 separate criminal groups that operate independently. Historically, they shared resources like smuggling routes, corrupt contacts, access to illicit chemical suppliers, and money laundering networks without sharing profits or answering to a central command. However, since El Chapo Guzman's extradition to the United States, internal power struggles and fluctuating alliances have increased. This has generated tensions among faction leaders and escalated violence in states like Sinaloa, Sonora, and Baja California. The 4 factions of the Sinaloa Cartel are Los Chapitos, the collective name of Ivan Archivaldo, Jesus Alfredo, and Joaquin, sons of El Chapo, who are still free and active, running a complex drug empire. Their brother, Ovidio Guzman Lopez, was extradited to the U.S. in September 2023 and is out of the game. The Zambada faction, led for decades by Ismael El Mayo Zambada, now in his 70s and reported to be in poor health. Leadership has passed to his son, Ismael Zambada Siqueiros, aka El Mayito Flaco, supported by his brother Serafin Zambada Ortiz, who returned to Culiacán after his release from federal prison in 2018. Los Guanos, led by the powerful and violent Aureliano Guzman Loera, aka El Guano, brother of El Chapo. He has been involved in territory disputes in Sinaloa against his nephew Ivan Archivaldo and the Zambadas. Known as the Lord of La Sierra, he controls large territories in the mountains of the Golden Triangle in Sinaloa, Sonora, and Durango, where marijuana and opium poppy plantations for heroin production have been established for decades. The last faction is led by veteran drug trafficker Rafael Caro Quintero, a founder of the original Guadalajara cartel. He ordered the kidnapping, torture, and murder of DEA agent Enrique Camarena in 1985 and was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Released in August 2013 after serving 28 years, he was rearrested in July 2022. Since then, Los Chapitos have been fighting his organization, the Caborca Cartel, for control of the Sonora Desert region, a crucial trafficking route to the Arizona border. The Sinaloa Cartel's fractured leadership continues to fuel violence and chaos, impacting towns across Mexico. The Sinaloa Cartel reaps billions from the fentanyl trade. The Chapitos and the Zambadas pioneered the deadliest drug threat the U.S. has ever faced. With precursor chemicals imported from China, the cartel produces bulk quantities of fentanyl in clandestine labs hidden in the mountains of Sinaloa. A kilo of fentanyl, enough for around 400,000 pills, costs about $1,700 to produce and transport. Once smuggled into U.S. cities, each pill sells for $1 to $5. Do the math. In clandestine labs, similar to those used for fentanyl production, the Sinaloa Cartel has been producing methamphetamines for over 2 decades. This synthetic drug is highly profitable, made with chemicals sourced from China, India, and Argentina. After flooding the U.S. market with meth, the Sinaloa Cartel expanded to regions like Asia, Australia, and New Zealand, where profits can soar to 100 times higher than U.S. sales. Despite amassing billions from the illicit synthetic drug trade, the Sinaloa Cartel remains deeply entrenched in trafficking cocaine, heroin, and marijuana, the narcotics that built its empire. The cartel's long-standing alliances include ties with Colombian cocaine producers like the FARC and ELN guerrillas and the right-wing paramilitary group Clan del Golfo. They also collaborate with Venezuela's El Cartel de los Soles, led by President Nicolas Maduro, as well as drug syndicates in Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. Using Central America and the Caribbean as bridges, the Sinaloa Cartel controls numerous maritime and aerial routes, which are used to facilitate the smuggling of large cocaine shipments into Mexico and later cross them into the U.S. Seaports, airports, and clandestine landing strips across Mexico are the lifelines of the Sinaloa Cartel's vast criminal network. The port of Mazatlan on the Pacific coast and Guaymas in the Gulf of California are under the cartel's total control. Los Chapitos and the Zambadas also exploit the ports of Manzanillo in Colima, which is strategically significant because of its location on the central Pacific coast and its high volume of shipping traffic, and the ports of Lázaro, Cardenas, and Veracruz, which they dispute with other cartels like the CJNG and the Gulf Cartel. The airports of Mexico City, Cancun, and Tapachula in the south are frequent hotspots for the cartel's operations. The Sinaloa Cartel controls 100% of the border crossings of San Luis Rio, Colorado, and Nogales to Arizona, and Mexicali to California, ensuring a steady flow of drugs into the U.S. daily. While Tijuana and Ciudad Juarez are also critical points, they are affected by constant violent disputes with rival cartels. Since the 1980s, the Sinaloa Cartel pioneered the construction of drug smuggling tunnels from Mexico to the U.S. Many of these tunnels are still active, although advancements in American detection technology have forced the cartel to shift tactics. Now they utilize sewage and water systems in border cities to evade authorities. When it comes to drug trafficking, their most lucrative venture, the Sinaloa Cartel operates like clockwork. They seamlessly integrate production, transportation, and wholesale, much like a multinational corporation. Yet, as a criminal enterprise, they've diversified their income streams. One method is extortion, where they charge local businesses and other criminal groups a tax called piso in the towns they control. The cartel also steals petroleum from the pipelines of Mexico's state-owned oil company, Pemex. With more power than Mexican authorities in several territories, they also profit from smuggling migrants into the U.S., trafficking weapons, and controlling prostitution. The Sinaloa Cartel's billions of dollars in annual revenue allow them to operate freely in parts of Mexico, leveraging a network of corrupt law enforcement, military, and political contacts. In February 2023, Genaro Garcia Luna, Mexico's former Secretary of Public Security, was convicted in the Brooklyn federal court for aiding the Sinaloa Cartel in trafficking multi-ton drug loads to the United States in exchange for millions in bribes. Former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez was also convicted in New York in 2024 for facilitating drug trafficking operations for El Chapo Guzman and his associates in Central America. Recent investigative journalism suggests that the Sinaloa Cartel, particularly the Chapitos and the Zambadas, have financed the political campaigns of Mexican presidents Enrique Peña Nieto and Andrés Manuel López Obrador, gaining privileges for their expanding criminal empire during those presidential terms. According to the DEA, the Chapitos are currently the most powerful criminal organization in Mexico. This is Illicit Investigations. Subscribe now to our channel to go beyond the headlines.